Just need to stream. Okay. Oh, that's another toilet joke. No, need to stream.
Everything's a toilet joke.
Yeah. Can't go wrong there.
No.
So are you here just for one trip of dropping stuff off or bringing home?
Yeah, so my car's full right now. And then this Friday, we will be officially moved.
Yeah. Wow. Right. So you got one more trip down there?
Yeah, so I'll go back, and then her parents are going to come up and just get it all, and we're going to get the hell out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Technically 3 trips.
Yeah.
Because I went last week, and then...
We did it in chunks, though, which I thought was smart.
Yeah.
Okay, that computer's not charging, but it'll work for now. Before I begin, it is time to thank our friends that support the show. First of all, Gooder Sunglasses, you guys. Have you checked out the lineup at Gooder.com? Have you seen the movie Caddyshack? They actually have themed glasses from the film as well as dozens of others. All fun, non-slip, all polarized, all $35 or under. Check them out today. No, really, do it. Gooder.com. Also, hey everybody, new sponsor time. I think I keep forgetting to mention them, even though they've technically been on board for about a month or so. Ambassador Cycling, you guys. If you heard about the shows, and if you heard from the man on the shows, Bike Fit Sam, you know that the guy knows his stuff. If you want to get the best out of your riding at any level, you need to know the importance of proper fit. I can't even read my own copy that I typed. Sure, you can get a standover idea at your local bike shop, but trust me, it is not enough. It will change your enjoyment, your speed, your comfort, and your performance. Get over to ambassadorcycling.com and drop Sam a note. Set up a time to get fit, and you will likely put Sam into your will for all the life-changing monuments and moments you have had after riding a properly fit bicycle. Ambassadorcycling.com. If you are a Club Packfiller member, guess what? You get 50% off a bike fit. I shit you not. So that's pretty cool. So, hey, let's do this. And my nose starts running on cue. It's not like that one night, though.
It's a Pavlov's off thing. As soon as you hear the music.
Why would I train my nose to drool?
Maybe this
at the theme
has a sound of a... Somebody's sick.
Well, you know, I wrote this intro before I found out that we were going to have a little bit more than we had, so fuck it, I'm going with it. Wow, what a difference a week makes. Last week it was hot and clear. This week it's hot and smoky to the point of unhealthy. Last week we hadn't had a male American winner of a classic for a very long time. This week, Nelson Powless is the man. Last week Jackson lived in Portland. This week he still kind of lives in Portland, depending upon when you are listening to this show, but he's in house with us. And my last one is the one that doesn't apply, because I said last week we had a full house for the podcast. This week, let's see who's with us. He's the soon-to-be Spokenite, soon-to-be gainfully employed, still likely the fastest on the show, Mr. Jackson Bulger. All right, man.
Doing well.
I had nothing for Paul, but except he was going to go to a wonderful farmer's market tonight and drink beer with his bride, and that sounded like probably a better idea than sitting in a basement with a bunch of guys. And now he's because of the smoke, he's sitting here drinking beer with us. So, Mr.
Right.
Paul Main.
I got beer either way.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good point. I'm really glad I had the good shit lying around, because I don't know if you'd have gone for my mother-in-law's Coors Light that's in there.
No, sir.
Nope. Yeah, no, fuck no. Let me see. Well, I got to flip my page. I'm the one who's always here. Sorry about that. I'm Pat Bulger. We're not running a little bit lean tonight. Paul has a theory that we were going to test a theory tonight. That your theory that the shows run short if you're not here. But but I guess.
Well, they have been, and now we'll see.
That was because we were on the road and we had the shitty soundboard, but now we've got the AC in the background. Did I mention that I put in AC today? My wife is not listening to this podcast because she will not probably be cool with the fact that the AC is sticking out into our driveway.
Oh my God.
I don't think it's farther.
With a piece of cardboard.
That's wood.
All right. Okay, that's good.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But I think, however, I don't think it sticks out farther than our chimney. So when you're backing out of the driveway, you won't clip the AC unit. But I'm gonna.
You're gonna find out.
No better way to find out. So, gentlemen, how's the riding going? Jackson, let's start with you. How's the bike riding going? We're coming up to a little bit more of events. We finally, you and I did the nice hat, by the way. You and I did the Belgian waffle ride, and now it's time to switch gears. That's a bad joke.
That was good though,
especially with my bike.
Yeah. Yeah, the riding's been okay. As you mentioned, there's a move going on. I am moving from Portland to Spokane, and then this past week I had an interview which went well, so I will be employed here in Spokane as well. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's been a busy.
Best a father could ever hope for.
Exactly. But it's been a bit of a busy week. Doing what I can. I got one ride in yesterday or the day before. Yeah, like I've been saying, everywhere in Portland you can either go pan flat or you're climbing, so I climbed.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's been my whole ride.
So just one?
Yeah, just one. Hopefully one not tomorrow but the day after.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. Paul Main, how's your ride week gone?
This week was slim compared to the weeks prior to, but
it's because we're back. We fucked it up.
Yeah,
we came back and ruined your life.
No, that wasn't it. It was. I did a couple of morning, and I wanted to get a good ride in yesterday, and granddaughter come over. It's that grandkids before they go to school come over and dominate time.
Yep.
It's one of those things, and so it's like. And I didn't wake up early enough. You can. It's not an excuse, but if I woke up at 5 and went out and hit it, then I would have something in. But I kind of felt like not hitting it at 5 in the morning. But at 8, I'm like, damn it! Now it's too late. So.
Have you ever been? You used to do that morning ride group quite a bit. How often did that group leave?
Every day.
And what time?
5:45. There's a new one that I might hit this week. And that's some of the guys that do the TNT also, and they meet at 5:30.
God, that's too early, man. I can't. You know what? I always set my alarm. I have set my alarm for decades to do those types of things. To get up, I'm going to go down. I'm going to work out in the mornings. Yada yada yada. I never do. I never do. I turn off the alarm. I wake up before the alarm goes off, and I'm super sleepy, and I turn the alarm off, and I sleep in. I can't do it. I've realized that it's just impossible. There was a while that I used to go down to an athletic club and work out in the mornings before I had after. It's because I had my first period free as a teacher, so I could show up a little late for school. But you can't do that contractually now. So now I don't do it anymore, and I can't.
Yeah, my new job is from 7:30 to 4:30, and I already have coped with the idea that it's all going to be after work riding. Like, I'm not getting up before 7:30.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. The hard part for me is afternoons, because you get off work, you kind of want to relax before you get going, and that's that moment where you're like, what's that? A beer in the fridge? Well, okay, tomorrow I will,
Yeah. And even if you are at the point where you can do it, it's just and as the light starts to fade here, once you get into October, November, you come home 4:30, it's dark anyway. You're like, fuck it, I can't do it, and then wake up in the morning and it's dark.
First world problems right there.
Meme, my last week, I have a bike that's currently down. I think I talked about that on the last show. Front shifter is not functioning. Paul was not. He's not going to give it back to me apparently until it's functioning.
What are you going to do with it?
I don't know. Just
look at it.
Go out and spin in the little chain ring or something like that.
I've got the cables pulled out on the front. So
never mind then.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, by the way, before we went to air, I went upstairs because I left my phone on the charger, and before I went to air, I'm going to quote you the email I got. Jay, because I give them my whole name, J. Patrick Bulger, and they just go J, comma. Your order number has shipped, and the tracking information is below. Thanks for your business. Shipped on 8/2/2021 using UPS Ground, and I clicked that, and I think it's going to be here on Friday.
That's a long wait.
Yeah. That's 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm also, and I'm not going to name this company because this morning I also sent them an email, just saying, hey, what's the status of my order? Thanks for your time. I know, yada 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 yada. I was polite. I wasn't a dick.
Yeah.
I wasn't an asshole.
Well, that's out of character.
I know, right? I'm learning, and it's funny that I get this email
Like soon after
that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think they're like, oh fuck?
Hey Fred, did you ever pack up that shifter? God damn! Oh, he just son of a bitch!
Yeah, that's what I'm starting to think.
Yeah.
These customers and these companies are just sitting back and waiting for the last second to submit this shit. But I have been riding my own custom steel bike, the Harry Gary, built by a local artisan, Gary Sellner. This guy, Harry Gary sounds like an insult, but it is perfect. Paul worked with him for a long time, and we talked about those years working with him on the ride this weekend. And I have to say that some things have definitely changed in my riding style over the last several years. Since I went to the LaPierre and now to the Giant. I am no longer a stretched out roadie. Riding that bike is so long in the reach that my back is still sore from that ride on Saturday.
Wow.
I was kind of feeling it a little bit on the ride, and then in the middle of the night that night, honestly, I had to kind of curl up in bed because I wanted to stretch my back because it was already starting to get sore. Getting the drops in that bike feels like I'm just trying to reach for the skewer or something like that. It's like, oh fuck. So I figured that out. Second thing I figured out is that gearing has changed a shitload since those days. You can be here to justify this for me. I used to be fine with a 23 in the back, 42, 23. And that was it. That was what you climbed in. And a 23 was kind of a
Wimp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the bailout gear.
Yeah.
I have a 30 on my 2021 bike.
Yeah. What is that cluster on that wheel set you have that I'm using? Do you know?
It's a 1128 or a 1028. It's one of the two.
1128.
Yeah. Because Campagnolo from those days won't take a 28.
I think it depends because they made a medium cage. There's a medium cage, and then they had a short cage, and I think that's a short cage on there.
It's got to be.
But I think it's either 26 or 20. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Okay. Because I think it goes 26, 27, 28, those last gears or something like that. Because I can get into the 26, but then the other two, the actual cage of the derailleur is rubbing on the cogs above it.
Yeah, the jockey wheels.
Yeah.
Meshing
Wow.
over the top.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And third thing is I truly don't think that the weight is noticeable. The bike is heavier. It is definitely heavier, and I'm sure it is noticeable. But I felt fine for a good portion of that ride. There were some accelerations you guys made. You and Scott and I went for, nothing too hard, but there were some efforts, and I felt okay. But I don't know. I'm just trying to make a steel versus carbon type of an argument here.
I like if I still had my Harry Gary, I'd give it away. But
Yeah.
if I still had mine, I'd be riding it.
Would you?
Occasionally. Yeah. I like steel.
It just has a great feel to it. It does. Well, you're just brand new to carbon, so.
Yeah, it's definitely a different feel to me. I like the steel, and I think that it's great for the bike that I have it on, especially 131 miles on a steel bike. It's a little bit more forgiving, which was nice. But
yeah. So I'm waiting for this new shifter. Hopefully it's going to get here and everything will be good. Especially, so I don't know what I'm going to do for the first stage of the Classic. I guess I'm on the Gary or I'm on the gravel bike, neither of which are going to be a very fast option.
you could ride my Trek.
Yeah, but well, I guess if I'm going fast enough on the climb, I can do it in the 20, whatever.
Oh.
Yeah, 23.
23.
I think if you're going to do Baltimore, that's not a sharp gradient, so
Yeah.
you'd be in a bigger gear.
And Jameson, I'm going to mark off both courses so people can do both in one night if they want to see which one's faster. So I'm sweating. We have AC down here, and I'm fucking sweating. You lied to me. Before we get to the news and topics and as well as the Classic, I want to make something perfectly clear. I have, for some reason, been fixated on the fact that the River City Cycling Classic in my mind, is the last weekend of August. And I have said that on this show many times, and you guys corrected me. And then I think after a while, you guys just kind of stopped correcting me. I'm like one of those.
Quit listening to you because you're full of crap.
Yeah. No, and I accept that. And so I finally came to the conclusion that, Pat, the race is in 2 weeks. It is the 14th and the 15th of August. Quit saying on your podcast that it is the 28th and 29th or something like that.
Do you think that was a subconscious thing? You wanted more time to prepare.
You know, it's funny you should say that. Because I really do.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, I was like going, I got like 4 weeks of speed work. I'm good, man. I'll be fine. Now I have like 10 days.
Well, you're going to do speed work up to the race?
No. So I've got this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm fucked.
Yeah, that's called cramming for a test.
Yeah, I'm fucked. Yeah, I'm basically screwed all the way over.
Meanwhile, your toes are still denumbing from...
They are. Yeah, the outside of my feet are still a little numb from Belgian waffle. But you know what? Toes, the muscles still work. I've got balance. So if I can't feel them, that's darn it. But I can still feel. I can't feel them, but I can still use them. So
yeah, that's what matters.
Yeah. So we're gonna be all right. Sorry to everybody at ODZ and to Mike Surratt, everybody who's been organizing that race, especially because it's actually an announcing gig. I'm going to be announcing the crit.
You almost missed your gig.
Yeah, I would have showed up at the wrong time.
Where is everybody?
Yeah. Why does everybody hate me?
Yeah,
for 3 weeks. So August 14th and 15th, and look it up on Facebook if you're needing to. River City Cycling Classic. I'm going to be doing the road race in the crit. Jackson, have you committed to any of the above?
I know that I'll be doing the road race in the crit.
All right. I just wanted to get it on the air.
Oh, yeah. I'll be living here. I have weekends off.
Oh, that's so sweet. That is so sweet. Paul, just road race crit?
Road race crit.
Okay. Yeah. No TT.
No.
Because we were bashing around the idea of doing the TT.
Yeah, and I've got my TT bike, and I was going to go ride the course and take a look at it, but I don't want to burn a match on that because I know as much as like just take a little bit easy. And
would you, if it wasn't a district championship, would you still?
Possibly. I think that if it was reversed, if the road race was first and then the TT, I definitely doesn't matter.
Evening TT.
Yeah. I probably would have done it that way because you can, that's a huge effort. And the way I race on a road race is, well, basically I don't sit in. I'm always trying to create a break or be in a break. So I just burn the match in the morning. So, and I don't. At 58, there's only two matches in that book.
I just imagine Bruce Willis in the Fifth Element, where he only had too many matches left. Yeah. Sorry, that's a movie reference. Probably I'm the only one that gets. Jackson, you cool handing the announcing gig while I race the crit?
Yeah, I've never announced a bike race before, but in the past 2, 3, 4 years, I think I've learned a little bit. So. I might be able to do it. Take a couple tips from you and Dave Toll, and put it together in perfection.
Okay. The worst case scenario: just ring the preem bell when your father is near the front.
Yeah. I'll just ring the preem bell, like probably 200 meters before the line.
Yeah, not preem lap.
Yeah.
Preem
200 meters.
Preem now. Preem now.
And you guys have a signal like. Yeah. Wave your finger.
Yeah.
Like, and then you go ding.
Yeah. I'll split it with you. Okay. Should we get to the headlines, you guys? Let's get to the headlines. Where is my headline button? There it is. Before that computer dies. It doesn't seem to be wanting to charge, but oh well, fuck it. Hey, you guys. Nelson brings it home. In case we didn't all pay attention to the fact that the Classic of San Sebastian just happened recently, and an American won the goddamn thing. It was so beautiful. And is it Nelson or Nielsen?
Nielsen.
Is it Nielsen?
Nielsen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know what I'm talking about, but sometimes when you just read names, you kind of fuck it up. Nielsen Paulus from EF Education first. Nipo beat Mate Mahoric. Mate Mahoric. See, I think what I know.
It's
what I'm
the
talking
Slavic
about.
names you're having problems with.
It is.
Yeah.
Well,
I get it.
Nielsen. Yeah, except Nielsen. A 3-man sprint to win Classic in San Sebastian, which, despite being affected by a late crash on a run into the finish, I didn't catch most of the race. Paul, you did.
Yeah, I caught most of it.
It was a really weird race, I guess, that didn't play out as expected. From what it sounds like, Quick-Step did not do some chasing for an extensive period of time, which you would think with Julian Alaphilippe being there that would have happened. But there we go, leaving Trek Segafredo to do most of that work, apparently at the front of the field there, leading us into the fact that the U.S. has our first Classic winner since, I think, Voldemort probably won Amstel.
Yeah.
Which is a long time ago.
Yeah, and it seemed like it earned him a pretty good future, because I saw him post on Instagram today that he now has a 3-year contract extension with EF, which is big for him. I think he's going to be a big future for EF.
Yeah.
And I don't know Jonathan Vaughters, but from what it sounds like, getting an extension out of him is like pulling teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He won't do it till the last second. He's quite tight with the purse strings, but it's good to hear. Any notable moments, especially Paul, since you were able to catch the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm sure everybody read the caption that Nielsen said that going in that corner where Mohoric locked up his brakes, went into the curb, and the couple of guys, one guy went down, but Nielsen said that he was looking at his Garmin. He goes, "Hey, we got a sharp corner coming up," and so he kind of like laid back, and everybody missed. That's actually how he kind of got a gap, and they had to chase to get up to him, because Mohoric is usually pretty sharp when it comes to winning, and I think he had burned some matches, so it worked to his favor.
Yeah, I will say he beat a pretty on form rider who's in Mohoric, who has showed it in the Tour, and being the Slovenian national champion. It seems like that country can produce some pretty good riders. So I think that he should be pretty proud of that win.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
De Koning did have one in that front group. Michele Honore was in that 3-man group.
Yeah, and
so that's why
that
they
corner
refused
kind of took him out a little
Yeah.
bit, but he was able to bridge up.
Yeah. So awesome. It's just I had to mention it. I don't know. I didn't really have anything to go too in depth on it, but other than that Voldemort Amstel Gold is but when was the last American Classic winner you recall?
It would be George. It was after that, but George Hincapie won, and it's a semi-class A, I guess, Gent Velligem.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Okay.
I think, and then we had in the early 2003. What's his name? Hamilton.
Tyler won
Liège. Liège. That was a big one.
That was.
That's a monument. So.
Yeah. Even though isn't Liège's class? No, it's Flesh is classified as a mini. Classic. So, and story number 2: the Olympics crashing along. Gotta love these titles. Australia hopes in the men's team pursuit at the Tokyo Olympic Games took a massive blow on Monday today when Alex Porter crashed in qualifying after his handlebars appeared to snap clean off. Paul's already smiling. He's just drooling, ready to talk about new technology. Luckily, he was at the back of the team during the opening laps when that fall took place, meaning he didn't take down the rest of his teammates, but it was very much down to an equipment failure rather than athlete error. Australian track teams are riding aboard the 2020 Electron Pro from the Canadian brand Argon 18. I don't mean to call them out, and I'm going to say something about it here shortly. Fitted with an integrated aero cockpit, and I guess it's 3D printed. One-piece carbon fiber based on, carbon, but then there's also some 3D printing on there. It appears to have occurred halfway along the stem area with a clean break at the junction just after the stem area meets the handlebars. So, first of all, anybody bashing Argon should lighten the hell up, because how many bike breakage issues have we seen in the sport over these years? Tons.
And just recently, they said that wasn't their handlebar. For some reason, his got switched out.
Oh, no shit.
Oh, wow.
They didn't say whose they were.
Yeah.
Or why were they switched
We
out?
didn't do it.
Yeah. But that's not ours.
It's not ours.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, so apparently they normally run the Argon 18, base bar, and that's what failed. But maybe he broke the other one in practice, and they threw one on. I don't know.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I was gonna say, maybe it was like a tightening issue, like with Vanderpool.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The way you described it as it's a one-piece bar and stem unit, so there probably was no over tightening issue, especially at the Olympics. You're not going to do it there. So
I was watching the women's team sprint qualifications this morning. By the way, so fucking boring watching the team sprint qualifications. It is just a two-person, 3-lap time trial. It is like watching paint dry, and I'm sitting there the whole time going, they took away the kilo. The kilo is more exciting than watching this qualification. And I'm not bashing females or anything like that. I'm just bashing the qualification of this event. Now, when it's more riders doing it at the same time, it changes the game a little bit. But it was just a 2-person time trial that lasted 30-some seconds. But I was watching the amount of torque those riders are putting on those bikes. Abso-fucking-lutely insane. I can't believe that breakage, that my point is that these bikes are being built so strong and so well. It's just these people are putting so much pressure into them.
Did you watch the men's or the women's?
Women's. I was watching the women's. Yeah. It was insane.
Chinese set a world record.
Yeah.
And they won the gold.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
They're leaning out of the starter that holds, the rider up on the banking has just a human holding them, but the person at the bottom is just timing it perfectly.
You hear
whap! It's just the amount of force they're putting into it is unbelievable, and so I guess my point is the lighter things get, the more issues we're going to see. And Paul, you could probably attest to that. When we have to be aware of the fact that we need a torque wrench to tighten our seat post bolt, or that there are certain frames you should not sit on the top tube because of the improper flex pattern of the carbon. They tell you not to lean against the top tube on some bikes. I guess the lighter it gets, the more designed it gets, the more aerodynamic it gets. We're destined to have more of this breakage along the line.
Well, I think you're going to see less of that on the road because they have to beef things up because of this invention called disc brakes. So
there it is. They have to
reinforce that because that changed. Everybody doesn't. I think the average person I beat that drum so many times, but when you put the braking part of a bike down by the hub, it changes everything from on the rim.
Yeah.
And, it will perform better, but what's the cost? And that's the thing that should be the discussion, not one is better than the other. They both perform well. Disc brakes better in many more situations. But the whole reason I got carbon wheels were for race wheels because they were lighter, more aero.
Yeah.
So you put a disc brake on there, they're never going to be as aero because you have to cross pattern on the disc side because that's the power side, and that spoke is used for braking.
Yeah,
that pull spoke, and so then they're not going to be lighter either for that particular reason or aero.
Yeah.
So we went backwards a little bit, and you have to reinforce that fork, the torque. Same with on the rear triangle. It changes everything. So, in fact, like your bike is substantially heavier than mine from the same manufacturer. Just part of that is disc, some of your equipment, but like 4 pounds difference.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and I will say that it's also super interesting, and I might be getting into the weeds a little here on this, but how the UCI makes rules around companies making aero gains on these disc brakes because, for instance, my bike has this little fairing, like plastic piece at the front almost, that if you want to work on the disc brakes, you have to actually take off. And what it is it makes the brake itself, like the brake body itself, more aerodynamic, and it covers it. But the UCI won't allow that type of stuff. So it's like it's almost it kind of feels like they almost don't want them around.
Yeah.
Because there is a simple way, just like a little piece of plastic. You could snap it easily, but the fact that that's not allowed feels weird to me.
So you'd have to remove that in a UCI base.
Yeah. For instance, when we do the race this week, or next week, I can probably keep that.
It's not till the end of the month.
Yeah, exactly. But I could probably keep that because they won't recognize it. But the little, like the little storage box on the bottom, technically I'm not allowed to have that because it's an aerodynamic advantage. So I will have to remove that, according to USA Cycling.
So it's just based on the rules. So anything that is attached on to create aerodynamics is not a legal thing. And there is also on a frame, I think the ratio is still 3-to-1. So the thickness of, you can't go 3 deep for the width, and then it's considered a fairing. So until they change those rules. But no one's asking for lighter bikes anymore because you can't really achieve that with disc brakes. So there was a while before disc brakes were really big. The
where
manufacturers
they're having to add weight.
Yeah, they had, and they're like, "This is stupid. We shouldn't be pinned at the 6.8 kilos. We can design a safe bike. In fact, Trek did one that's like I think 5.2 or 4 or something like that.
Shit.
And then disc brakes came, and it's like that discussion is gone. No one wants to talk about it.
Well, the new Specialized Athos is a thing of new creation. It's the lightest ever production disc brake bike that's 6.6 kilograms.
Jesus Christ.
It's insane.
Yeah. Speaking of aero, by the way, this is a perfect segue to my third and final Olympic base story. For Monday's men's team's pursuit qualifying round of the Tokyo Olympics, all eyes were on Denmark as the hot favorite of the event, but even before that squad had climbed onto their bikes, they were making headlines. Spotted on the front of the rider's shins, extending upward within the socks, was a strip of kinesiology tape that continued to just beneath the knee. It's not uncommon to see this type of tape on riders in the sports, regularly used to aid with support of muscles, joints, cause of injury, or things like that. But in this case, the same tape was applied to both legs of all 4 riders. Coincidentally, the positioning of the tape would also act as a trip strip. I'm reading from prepared text. A turbulence to the onrushing air, helping it to remain attached to the surface of the leg longer and subsequently improving the aerodynamic performance of the riders. Team, by the way, is supported by Dan Bigham, who has a reputation for finding performance gains through aerodynamic and technological advancement. So many believe this is a tactical use of kinesiology tape rather than for medical use. The UCI rules on the subject claim, and I quote, items of clothing may not modify the morphology of the rider and non-essential elements of the device, which the purpose is not exclusively that of clothing or protection is forbidden. This shall also apply regarding any material or substance applied onto the skin or clothing and which is not itself an item of clothing. A second tweet from Chris Boardman out there said, to clarify, I believe the Danish team okayed the tape and use with the UCI. Okay. That was a lot of talking from my point. I guess my questions are, first of all, are we at that point where that type of marginal gain is so critical that riders are that close that we're needing to worry about a piece of tape on the shin bone? And my second question would be, is this foul play or is just finding a loophole and bending the rules?
It's an interesting topic, especially aerodynamics, which has been so focused on recently.
Sure.
Because to get a little technical, I am someone who knows what my weight, when aerodynamics stops mattering to my weight gain. So to my weight. So if it hits 6%, that's when aerodynamics for my 163 pounds stops mattering.
Yeah.
And so that's something I know, and which is kind of funny because I have a feeling you guys wouldn't know that type of stuff.
No clue.
Which just shows.
Paul probably does.
No, I just know it gets harder.
Yeah, see, exactly. Well, and the thing is, that shows how new these type of things are, and how much attention it's being paid. The aero bike is somewhat kind of new, but it's also more riders are picking these bikes because of those types of aerodynamic gains, and it's because every rider right now is so close on a playing field. I do think that any gain matters, and it's also crazy to look at like some of the numbers about how just little changes in your body position or your bike or your equipment can just change can change seconds, can take watts off. And the last question, I don't know. It's medically for them, but if they like got it approved with the UCI, then I don't know if I find an issue with it. But it probably took half a watt off of each rider.
Yeah, and I agree. The thing is if they got it cleared, and they said, yeah, that's not a problem. That whole creating turbulent air, that's what a golf ball's based off of.
Sure.
Those dimples, and that's what they're doing. And that's why the UCI is strict on socks, because they're developing socks. Now, take it a little bit further, when they started really pushing that, Lotto Sedal used to use like an oil base. It was an aero oil base that they put on their legs that supposedly gave them slicker legs. And the UCI canceled that. But I think on the road to do that, no. I mean, time trial, the longer the time trial, you probably get some advantage. But when you're talking on the track where they're like the Chinese sprint, they won by 8/100ths or 8 1/100ths of a second over the Germans. So, you could see where that could be an advantage. But
And then on top of that, I this is a slight subject change, but then on top of that, I watch the track sprinters, not velodrome, running track sprinters, and especially the women, they've got these wigs on that are flowing in the wind. They've got their numbers. All the track runners, I'm seeing numbers that are just I've seen better pin jobs by a Cat 4, and everything. I'm just looking and I'm going, when is track sprinting going to understand the concepts of aerodynamics? Because these wigs are just flowing in the wind behind them. Absolutely, they've got to be creating some form of a drag. It has to, but I don't know. It's just
at their speed, at a running speed, what is the time loss or what for the drag?
I'm surprised they're not all hooded up and just kind of completely self-enclosed. If you've got swimmers who are doing all that stuff, and then the runners, you just see them completely dressed out. It's just I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But oh well, I guess that's why I'm here and they're there. So thanks, Jackson. We had Bender trying to bust in for some happy time. So it's time for our topic, you guys. Topic of the show time. I don't have any theme for the topic. Someday I'm going to have to get that. Brought to us by our friends at Scratch Labs and Athletic Brewing. Pretty much the go-to for during and after ride beverages. At least for me, it sure as heck is. I am a sure fan of the straight out lemon lime flavor of Scratch. That's the one I stick to, and that's the one I'm gonna swear to for the rest of my days. I do love some of the other ones, but lemon lime just for me is good tasting. It reminds me when to drink. I kind of enjoy the flavor, so I will go back to it more often. Kind of a subconscious type of a thing, and it's not too strong a flavor, so my gut doesn't reject it. And I think, Jackson, you might be able to testify in Belgian Waffle about gut rejection, and we don't know what that was from, but you got pretty sick after the end of that thing.
Yeah, I think it was
not to pick on anybody, of course.
It was through probably the first hour and a half. I used just Scratch products, and then I had to switch to another brand just because Scratch wasn't like the main sponsor of BWR. Yep. So once that happened, I think by the end it was either my body wasn't used to it or overhydration or just a lot of stuff being put in my body that it's not used to.
Yeah. Also, big thanks to, as I said, Athletic Brewing. I just had the Lemon Radler today, a non-alcoholic lemon radler. For those of you guys who don't know what lemon radler is, it's the...
Radler.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Paul. Pretty damn good for an NA offering. I'm gonna say it. And my palate's been kind of getting used to it for a while. As I said earlier, don't think of it as a beer. Think of it as a non-alcoholic brew, non-alcoholic beverage. Pretty good on a summer day. Bit sour, but very refreshing. 70 calories per can. By the way, if you're paying attention, a lot fucking less calories than Gatorade. So check scratchlabs.com and please use the Athletic Brewing link at packfiller.com. So, social cycling is the idea that Jackson came up to me today. What I thought was a pretty good one. First and foremost, we can talk about the classic itself. 4 rides, spirited pace, all intended to do one thing: get us out there riding with each other. Because God knows we haven't had that opportunity, sharing our rides socially if we're not riding with each other. So everybody, be sure and check all the information out on the classic. I released a pretty average made YouTube video this morning talking about the details of the race itself and things like that. But cycling, whether we want to admit it or not, is a social sport. When I first got into it, there was, and actually still is, a lot of solo riding. I still do a good amount of solo riding. But some of the greatest moments, some of the greatest stories, some of the greatest people and experiences in my cycling life have been with others. So I kind of tailored this, first of all, just thinking it was going to be Jackson and I, but I know, Paul, you're going to have some absolutely awesome insight into some of this stuff. But Jackson, as someone who tends to ride alone when in Portland, what are your thoughts on the importance of cycling with other people? I know you've done a lot of it solo.
Yeah. No, I definitely have done a lot of it solo. For the past, ever since I really started riding and had the means in my own apartment, it's been about 2 years, just practically solo, but I've also ridden with my girlfriend. But kind of when I train, sometimes it's tough, doing it alone, having the motivation, just because there's not that other person there kind of making you feel guilty, that type of feeling. But also, I will say, when I come back to Spokane and I ride with you guys, or we do like that spirited Thursday night ride, it's just a different feeling altogether. I feel that like excitement that I feel. To give an example, today I was when I was driving back here to Spokane, I was thinking about like racing, and it gave me that little spark in my stomach a little bit, and it got me excited. That you can't experience that when riding alone. That's just not possible, because you can race yourself as much as you want, but at the end of the day, when you look at Strava and you see that you got the KOM, you didn't get that spark in your stomach. At least for me. And I think I've always found the group ride to be very important for myself, just because it gets you to socialize with other people, which is something obviously the past year has kind of kept us from doing. But also, it creates a like friendly competition, which I think for cyclists is so important. If you are competitive, if not, that's awesome. But I need that competition, and so like just riding alone can only do so much for me.
Paul, do you prefer one over the other?
Yeah, it depends. I think I need 2 solo rides a week. The rest I don't mind with a group. Big groups once a week, but I usually prefer no bigger than 6. 6 is like a good number to ride in a group. You know what I mean? You get a good rotation, and everybody gets a good workout, and you're not worried about that jerk that's been sitting and then he attacks on the hill, and that. People are a little more accountable, I think, at 6. We're talking about the TNT ride. That's always good for measuring, seeing where you're at. Mm-hmm. There's people that that you would like to be or close to or beat. That's where the group ride part comes in, and the ODZ guys keep it pretty sociable too. They stop on the top of the hill, so everybody comes up, and there's a little chit chat afterwards and stuff. But I mean, it's still clickish because the really fast guys can't talk to me because I'm like, 5 minutes.
They're bored by the time you get there. Yeah. Like, shit, I gotta
all
go
their
home for
salts
dinner.
crystallized on their head. So, but yeah, I think it is a social sport. I think a lot of people lean more to the social.
Yeah.
But if you look at the things like group rides, like the Sunday breakfast ride, how big that was.
Sure.
And we talked earlier off mic about a group ride that started in the 80s called the morning ride. They take off at 5:45. There's 2 doctors, and then it grew up to, I think there's on average at one point 45 riders that do
Jesus.
this loop.
Wow.
And so obviously there's something to that.
Yeah. I've spent most of my cycling career, up until like probably the last 5 or 6 years, always riding by myself, training by myself. I had teammates. I mean, Jack was one of my teammates for a while. He and I, when I first started riding, he and I rode together all the time, but we didn't ride with the rest of the team very often. And so I spent a lot of years, especially because the team I was on, everybody kind of went off to other teams, and I stayed on. Especially when I was 18, 19, I was the only person racing Cat 2 on my team, and so I spent all this time training while my stepmom was training all the juniors and taking them to ice cream and all that kind of shit. And I was out there doing these major miles and stuff like that. So I just became a part of me that I just got used to riding alone, and I still kind of find myself going back to that. I still kind of sometimes feel awkward. My wife was asking me recently why I don't ask her to go on tandem rides very often, and I froze because I didn't want to insult her, but I'm just so used to it being kind of my own little fortress of solitude and my time to let my mind just kind of go by itself that I've got to teach myself to get back into that social element in the sport. And when we go to a group ride or something like that and people start kind of coming up and talking and stuff like that, I almost have to put on like a character face because I don't know what to say because I've spent so much time just riding alone and things like that. So it's been really interesting. Do you guys tend... How about somebody? I'm jumping questions because several of them were just kind of a two-person discussion here. But this is okay. How does someone go about getting into that social dynamic? How would you recommend something? Because cyclists tend to be a tough group to truly break into, and I'm not just talking on the road. I've had difficulty with mountain riders. I've had difficulty even with gravel riders.
Yeah.
We talk to some gravel riders who tend to be the most relaxed, kind of kickback group in the world. But there's still this element of it's our group and you're new to the group and stuff like that. And roadies are the hardest, I would think. Mm-hmm. But how do you do that? How do you go to a town like Portland when you moved there and magically find a group to start riding and training with and friends for life? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough question, especially like somebody who moved to a brand new city and found the sport of cycling, and then tried to make something out of it. It was kind of difficult. I will say though, I'm really, really happy that I did at least one race while I was there, because I found that the community, at least just from the race that I was in, was really welcoming, and it's really hard. It is really hard to get into that type of thing, especially because it is intimidating because cycling is a very prideful sport. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
You don't want to get dropped. You don't want to lose because that hits at your ego a little bit. But as hard as it sounds, and I think just kind of jumping into it is a really great way of doing it, because you're gonna kind of figure it out. You're gonna get to know the people, and 9 times out of 10, there's gonna be one person that goes, "Hey, we haven't seen you. Like, what's your name? What's your experience level?" Type of a thing like that. Like when I was in Portland, I was next to this guy, and I said, "Is this the Cat 4 race?" And he went, "Yep." And then we were able to have a conversation.
Sure. And
you kind of find that cyclists tend to be pretty friendly people, if you just have that opportunity to just kind of reach out to it. It's a hard thing to do, I will say, though, to just kind of get into it, to just jump into the deep end like that.
Yeah.
I think that's true with anything. Like, I watched my wife trying to get into fly fishing, wants to buy the right gear and doesn't look stupid with other people out there. That's a common human thing. But I think as you guys were speaking, I quit listening and started thinking about myself. And but how I got into it, there's something I rode by myself all the time, and I just saw something came up, and it was a a MS 150, and we rode the first day. There was a, from Spokane to Sandpoint, and then Sandpoint to Thompson Falls, Montana, and they bust you back. And that's how I, started meeting people, and then you start hearing about different groups, and then you're riding with guys, and you're like, hey, then you start, conversing. But it was extremely intimidating, and I think why road racing is so tough is because it's so competitive. Like in mountain biking, the guy got second place. You may not even see him behind you who got second place. You don't.
Yeah.
Cycling, that you're bumping, you are right there, and you make a mistake, you move your line, you're going to hear about it. I mean, it is an intimidating environment, but I think
and when
also
you bump somebody, they're not going to go, "Hey, my name's Pat. Nice to meet you." Please, you just want to be careful with that again. They're just going to go, "Hey, fucker, get out of here," or something like that.
Hey, just settle down.
Yeah.
Like that.
And that's an intimidating part of it.
Sure.
Yeah, it is, because you're riding in a group, and a lot of people, when you have to start at some point riding in a group.
Yeah.
But also, as soon as you pull up, when I'm thinking about like breakfast ride, and I've been in a couple other rides, you show up and they're already kind of eye checking you out,
Yeah.
They're looking at your legs and looking what kind of gear you have, because the pecking order in this group is already, this is number 1, this is number 2, or 1 and 2, vice versa. And so, so that is intimidating, and so they just have to figure out, and they're not kind because you might be a threat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's so odd. We were, as I said at the beginning of Belgian Waffle, I said I've never seen so much dick measuring in my entire life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everybody just looking each other up and down. It was just ridiculous. And it's got to be so hard for people outside of that loop. You might be an incredibly accomplished rider, but if you come into a new environment, it's almost like becoming a working actor. You got to be in the union to get a job, but you can't get a job until you're in the union. It's that way with cycling groups. I mean, because people aren't just going to walk up to you and go. I mean, Keith, a good friend of mine and teammate of ours, said he came to town and he went into a bike shop and he said, "Hey, I was a big racer in the San Diego Crit Series and stuff like that, and I'm looking for a team." And they immediately recommended one of the worst teams in town to him, because it's almost like they don't trust you, or it's just they don't want you to break in on their group or something. It's odd. And as I said, I've been judged by road cyclists, by mountain cyclists, by gravel cyclists, and it's the same across the board. What is a way that, is the only way to really create a level playing field where we can all get along? Is there an off-the-bike social element that could be created? I talk all the time about my dream of creating a public house where it's just before and after rides. It's a meeting place. It's beer. It's wine. It's coffee. It's workouts. It's Zwift. It's all that kind of stuff. That's a pie in the sky kind of a thing. But is there an element like that can maybe help level that playing field, that you could have I think there are some clubs in town who do a barbecue meet and greet or something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think one of the things that really opened my eyes to this was when we were in San Marcos, and we saw when we went to the BWR Expo, was that it was a very, to me at least, it was a very special place that I haven't seen a lot in cycling. Was that you and I picked up our race packets. And I looked, and I flipped around, and I saw Pete Stetina.
Yeah.
Drinking a beer, having conversation with fans, and you went up and you shook Ian Boswell's hand and Dave Toll's hand, and it was like one of those moments where everything seemed kind of even to me.
Okay.
Personally, I was somebody who was very intimidated, just because these are the people who I've looked up to for so long.
Sure.
But the fact that all of these people are just there, accessible, and willing to talk to you no matter what, to me seemed like a very special environment that a lot of sports don't really create. I mean, obviously on the local level, I think it's a little bit more difficult to bring Pete Stetina in, but
yeah.
I think, like you're mentioning, like a just a relaxed barbecue setting, or a relaxed setting, I think is something that cycling needs to just have everybody get to know each other.
Well, I don't. I think that certainly helps. But
Doesn't want to be touchy-feely, of course. But
but I think it helps
Just
to
seeing balls out.
have a place like that. But it's when you pull up on the bike, it's still the intimidating factor.
Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
meet and talk to everybody at first, and hey, I saw you, for the team ride kind of meeting or blah
Sure.
blah blah. But as soon as you put your gear on, it's like you're going to war. It's are you friend or foe? So it's just I don't know if that can ever be broken.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a sense of obligation. I look at myself being the elder, that if I see somebody out of place, to try and make them feel welcome, and just let them know you don't want to be on my wheel, because if you're fast, I'm not the one to follow this guy and this guy. I mean, that helps too. It's like I'll just point out, I will. I mean, I'll do that if somebody comes in. This guy is known for this or that. So I think, because I'm out of the loop, it makes it easier for me to say and talk to somebody new. But as much as I saw a new face come into like a couple of training rides that were set up in my prime. Well, my prime is not all that good, but anyway. But I wouldn't talk. I'd just say, "Hey, I'm Paul, by the way," and then I'd do my thing. And if he's there, I'd test him. Like punch over a little climb, see if he's got the. And it sounds like a dick move, but that's just, I think we're kind of animals, kind of.
It's the competitive element, though.
Yeah,
It
you
can't
can't take it off. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why we're cyclists.
Do you think that's cross-board? I mean, I know. I mean, I know there are. I like I said when I did the Mojo Diary show. Those guys were talking about no, we're not competitive, stuff like that, and I'm like, bullshit. I remember doing the Midnight Century ride, and this guy was. I'll give him shit. Josh from Mojo Cyclery, great fucking guy, but he was not sitting up. He was laying down a hard tempo. And I'm like going, if you're truly not competitive, why are you going hard right now? I mean, is it because he's just feeling his inner love, or is he just kind of want to put the screws to the roadies?
It might be his favorite stretch of ride that he likes to go hard on.
Yeah.
So.
But it still feels pretty good when you reach the top of a climb alone, isn't it? I mean, can we say
I don't know.
that?
I got to experience that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Scott's doing that now.
Yeah.
Jesus H. Yeah. My other thing about the social element is being intimidated at the shop level. Walking into a shop, have you guys ever? I mean, even at the level we're at now, do you guys still feel intimidation when you walk into a shop? Do you feel it at all, Paul? Or
No,
you don't
because
do it.
I was in the business from in so many different angles. So
Really?
No.
And you don't get it. You walk into a shop and somebody's going to look at you and probably think, he knows his shit. Or
No, I don't.
Do you have to
I
throw
don't
out
even
certain
care.
catchphrases or something?
No, I don't even care. I mean, I really don't care what they think of me because I have an agenda while I'm at that bike shop.
Sure.
But I think more than anything else, when I started, that was a different thing because I didn't know the jargon, and I had to buy a new floor pump. And what's it called? Presta?
The shop didn't know Presta?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't. Okay,
so I'm going in buying equipment that I don't even. Back then everything Campanolo. You had all these different names. You look at. I can't pronounce that word. What is that? And you sound like a dick because you
like
don't know
me
that.
when I'm reading a roster of a race report. Yeah,
Pretty close.
yeah,
Yeah.
pretty fucking close.
So, yeah, but I don't anymore
You don't.
because I mean since I've been doing this since '86.
Yeah.
So it's like I said. I
I've been
think
doing it since '82, and I still feel it though.
but you've kind of had a hiatus a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've always had a finger on the pulse at least
Okay.
at some point in time, and being in the bike industry as long as I have certainly was helped out. But yeah, I certainly know how people feel like that shop in Seattle we went into.
Yeah.
If you were just starting, you'd be going wrong place. You know.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna look at you.
No.
They didn't look at us.
Well, their bikes. The cheapest bike I think was like $8,000.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jackson, do you get shop intimidation? I'm not going to pick any shop. I'm not going to pick on anybody. I'm not going to name any brands or anything like that. But do you still feel it, or do you feel it at all?
It's really interesting being young.
Yeah.
they look at you a little differently. They don't know if you know what you're talking about when I go in. For instance, I bought some fenders for my bike, and he kind of approached me. He was a little hesitant, I could tell, when I went in to buy the fenders. This was in Portland, and I mean, mind you, at this point, I've watched every YouTube video there is to watch on these type of things. So I kind of know what to say, like you were saying, the jargon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's still intimidating, especially being my age. People look at me and go, "Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just coming in to look at like a bike that's way out of his price range or something like that." But I'm at the point where I know what I want. I know all the words that I need to say. I mean, I've even had this conversation with my girlfriend. It's like, I feel intimidated going into any bike shop, but I know, like, the words that I need to say. I know the exact, like, what's going to happen, but it's still kind of interesting to see how bike shop to bike shop my age is perceived.
Sure.
Which is really interesting.
I was going to ask you before I even get into some of the other stuff, but you ride when you're in Spokane with a bunch of old guys, predominantly.
Yeah.
My first question is have you ever considered trying to find a group of younger guys? We don't want to kick you out. Don't get me wrong. And how do you see yourself in the dynamic of the group with a bunch of old guys? Do you see yourself as the kid, or do you see yourself as an equal amongst your peers?
Yeah. For the first question, yeah, I remember when we went to the TNT ride the first time, and I saw, like, for instance, Bike Fit Sam is one of those guys who's not too far off my age range. Which was kind of cool to see, like, and not to say that you guys are like old or outdated or anything.
Oh, no,
of
we
that.
are.
Yeah.
But
pretty much are.
Yeah. But like to see that there is like some sort of community that is my age as well, or at least somewhat close to my age, was fun. And I think moving here will give me an opportunity to engage in that community, which I'm excited about. And then remind me of the second question again.
Second one is, what do you feel within the group itself?
Oh yeah. Which is kind of funny, you being my father. I have always viewed myself as an equal, even though I don't say that much. I know that I'm relatively quiet when it comes to being on the bike, but it's like I view myself as somebody who can kind of participate in the conversations and participate in like the efforts that we go for. I don't know what it was, but for some reason I never really viewed myself as like I'm the young guy in the group. It was just like I'm one of the group. Is kind of what it felt like.
Well, we got to switch shit up then. Apparently, Paul. We got to make him feel like a little kid.
Start talking about old movies.
just quote shit you wouldn't understand.
Yeah, that already happens.
Random 80s band.
Yeah, we do quote old movies. It already happens.
See, my memory's fading.
The Fifth Element joke earlier. I'm pretty sure you didn't pick up.
I've seen that movie.
Yeah, well, I've seen it probably 500 times. Who have been the most welcoming people you've experienced in your time in the sport, and what brought you into it? Paul, you mentioned that really long ride. Were there any individuals along the way that were just kind of like, "Hey, man, I got you. Come on, don't pay attention to these fuckheads. Let's go."
You asked me directly?
Yeah.
This is strange because it goes against everything that I believe in. There's a character that we all know, Randy Blaylock, but he had a certain attitude, and I kind of attached to that. I kind of liked and admired. He had a lot to learn. He was a badass, and he knew it, and so I not that I rode with him all that much or trained with him. At that point in time, he's kind of on his way out, but it's just like he was on the edge, and
he
that's where I wanted
to be.
I think in a way to understand, like the dynamics of a group, and he gave me a little bit of confidence because he kind of welcomed me in. He didn't welcome too many people in to his group, so I think that kind of helped. And I don't know at what point. I think I remember one incident. We're on a training ride, and he goes up this hill. And he kept throwing his bike, trying to overlap my wheel and hitting it, and I wouldn't quit. And So I think that I'm guessing that might have been it. He probably goes, "No, fuck, that's not it." You know, the way Randy is. But I think that was it. I think my mindset going into cycling, I did it, as I mentioned, many other sports, was this is for my life, for the rest of my life, and so I was gonna grab and, like a sponge, take in whatever I can from any individual. So.
So basically, you went off the raised by wolves mentality.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, that's just like, I'm going to attach myself to the biggest assholes, and when they accept me, I'm in.
There was another guy that I would have never attached, and I rode with him a couple of times, and you know him, and you don't like him either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
RP.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's a Rive guy. So. Yeah. That's not one.
Really? Okay. Jackson, anybody that kind of you were just like, okay, that I can get in, I'm good to go. You know, this is a person who's kind of showing me the ropes. You know, be it even in an individual race.
What's kind of funny is I got into it in a really kind of backwards way almost. Yeah. Because with probably the thing that was the most freeing for me to get into cycling was quitting soccer entirely.
Wow. Yeah.
Just because, like, while cycling is a team sport, it's much more individual than cycling is. No, cycling is much more individual than soccer is.
Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah. And I think that was something that I really needed, especially coming from like such a pressurized sport that's like, if you don't kick the ball correctly, you're never going to college type of situation. And so it's like, I mean, you, Dad, were the probably the most influential person when it came to, and I'm not just trying to get overly cheesy here.
I know my strings. Yeah,
but it's I mean, it's true. You never really like pushed me into the sport. You just more encouraged it. Okay. Which I think was something that I really needed after coming from a sport that was so, like I said, pressurized to a point where if you don't do one thing correctly, you're the worst player ever. And I think that was due to a lot of the coaches that I was with, and coming from that, I think, was the reason why I like cycling so much, just because it was, for me, a freeing feeling to not have all that pressure on it.
Yeah.
And you never put that on me, so
I gotta honestly say that what helped me a lot, Randy was one of my teammates back in the day, and Randy was always a dick to me, and that's because I didn't.
To me too.
I was just I was probably a goody two shoes dipshit, to Randy back in those days, and Randy was punk. Randy was listening to the Dead Kennedys, and all those kind of bands, stuff like that, and I was just, do you got any Phil Collins or something like that? So I was, that was the difference between us. And but Jack, I can't believe I'm going to mention Jack, but Jack and I became best friends, and it became a riding partnership. We'd meet together every day and ride, and we had a coach, Doug Stewart, at those times, who also helped tremendously. Just in terms of he wouldn't ridicule, but it was a hey, don't do that anymore. Do this differently, do that differently, and we just kind of was mellow in his delivery about it, and he took the time to kind of say, I actually the first words he ever said to me, we were out at the state line and we'd go out there and do sprints, and stuff like that. And so big, huge group sprinting towards us. I'm standing there because I was in a different group with him. I'm standing there and we're watching this group sprint towards us, and I tried to put my foot in the pedal and I fell over in the middle of the road. And the group is sprinting right towards us, full speed. And the first thing Doug Stewart ever said to me is he looked down and he said, "Better get up, Buck." He didn't help me. He was just like, "You're fucked if you don't get up, dude." And I got up, and and it's just like, that was his delivery. It wasn't judgmental. It wasn't harsh. It wasn't fucking idiot, get out of here, things like that.
So he was your inspiration.
I think
then
so.
Jack was more of a
Jack was more of a comrade,
And I had a comrade that we trained. We had on different teams, but that was Scott Bork.
Yeah,
I mean, we trained a lot together. I mean, year after year. So but that helps to have somebody like mine when you're training. Also, there's another guy I trained with, not as much as Scott, but Mike Meyerly. But he was had a tendency to sometimes create division.
Yeah.
A little bit, but
Mike and I had many headbutts in the middle of crits.
And he and Bork did too.
Yeah.
You know, even in training rides.
Screaming profanities in downtown crits.
Yeah.
I think. And I'm not blaming Mike. I think I was the one who probably was dropping F-bombs downtown.
Called him a
crits.
dick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you guys find yourselves, and I'm going to be the first person to admit guilt to this, do you guys find yourself judging other people at races and being a little bit more judgmental than you should be, or at group rides or things like that? I know for a fact, about several weeks ago, I mentioned that one of our rides and that we went on, and I was sketchy about a lot of the people on that ride, and I still don't know those people, but I judged them immediately. Do we all do that?
I think being a cyclist and being judgmental might, depending on the person, come hand in hand. Because I cannot name a single a single cyclist. Please prove me wrong. I would love this.
Yeah.
But I cannot name a single cyclist that doesn't show up to a race, a spirited ride, or an event, and see deep carbon wheels and go, "Oh shit, they're fast."
Yeah.
Because when I see somebody, for instance, when we showed up to the first TNT ride, I saw somebody with a Canyon Arrowed, probably like 60 to 70 millimeter deep wheels, and I was like, watch out for that guy.
Yeah.
Just because that is how I am.
He's a really successful accountant and has nothing to spend his money on because he can't get a girlfriend.
But that's the thing, though, and it's also like,
did I just judge?
But it's like, at the time, was somebody looking at me and going, he has an aluminum bike with super like
box styled rims.
Yeah, because I know I would probably look at somebody and go, don't worry about that guy.
Yeah.
And that inherently is probably a judgmental thing. And so, to answer the question in a long form, yes, I am judgmental in those type of situations.
Okay.
I would say certainly I was up to 8 years ago, and then as I turned 50 and you lose your edge a little bit.
You haven't lost shit.
I have, big time. And it's just not, it's interesting for me, like when the TNT comes, and there's some people I didn't know I'm starting to get to know, but try and judge their character, maybe by their bike, by their riding style, how they converse, and even when we roll out, you can see how people, because it can get tied in there. Some, some of the more experienced guys are wedging in between people, and you see them like, So I just make mental note, but it's not a really concern for me anymore. And I just, but certainly I promise you, up until like my early 50s, I did all that. Just like start looking at people's bikes, how clean they are, how dirty they are, and that type of thing. You see if he doesn't take good care of his bike. There's that fine line of somebody doesn't take care of their bike, they're not really serious about it, in my opinion. Then the one that's slightly dirty, who hasn't had time to clean his bike because he's riding all the time, is very concerning. Yeah. Or the guy that has the deep dish wheels, the top of the line stuff, and is sparkling clean. Then you don't have to worry about him. So that's.
So you're
that's my judgment. Yeah. I judged back then. Now it's just like you never know, because I've seen people with those sparkly bikes kick me in the ass, and it's like, wow, I was wrong about that. So.
Yeah. I still do it to this day. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I don't necessarily. I try not to let it get in the way, but I'm not gonna lie when I start out in a race or something like that. Especially, I have a hard time with the people who are really overly, chatty.
Those are the slow ones.
Really?
I've always found those are the slow ones.
Right, that's me.
There was a guy, no, but I don't mean chatty like funny. I mean chatty just like telling you all these important, this important shit. Like there was a guy in Belgian Waffle who's talking about the important, I'm going to ride this specific watts and I wanted to slap him right at the start of the race. And I looked at you, Jackson, at some point in the race, and I said, all I care about is beating that guy because I just don't like him. And you know what I mean? Maybe that's what keeps me going.
It could.
Maybe that's the important part of the race. Maybe being a guy who thinks everybody else is a dick is what keeps me going. Maybe I'm the dick. I probably am.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it, except you got a mic in your face, so now
Yeah.
you really
Yeah,
that
so
changes
I'm
everything.
the one who's saying
Yeah.
it to everybody.
Yeah.
By the way, if I line up next to you and I don't say anything, either I'm shy or I think you're a dick.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's not true.
No.
The camera's not on me, so I can
Yeah.
shift my glance back and forth. Speaking of riding socially, you guys, I know I mentioned it before, but I'll mention it one more time before the close of the show. The Packfiller Classic starts this Wednesday. You do not have to ride with me. You do not have to ride with us. You can do this all on your own, just like we did last year. All you got to do is find a course that matches the criteria of the courses we are prescribing. The courses themselves are not as drastic as they were last year. First one's same as prologue as last year. Second stage is a flying kilometer, which is basically you just go out there and find a fast, flat, not downhill kilometer, and you can go as fast as you want rolling into it, and you see how fast you can do a 1 kilometer. You can do that with your friends if you want to. Third stage is a 27-mile road race. Why 27? Because we here in Spokane are going to meet and we're going to do 1 lap of the Liberty School road race, which we are going to be have done the week before. So we'll not be sick of it by then.
Yeah.
And then the final stage is more of, I had a couple people asking me about the details of the climbing of the final time trial and the what do I have to get the hills right and stuff like that. I'm not going to lie. The final stage of the Packfiller Classic this year is simply more of a promenade and a reason to watch Paul Main ride an old time trial bike. I won't make you wear the kid of shame, by the way. You can TT out
All
for
right.
it if you
I
want.
will.
But
I'll go totally geek out.
Yeah.
I'll arrow helmet and everything.
I don't know
go.
about you guys, but I'm going to make sure I go early so I can ride back and be at specific areas in
Yeah.
the course. I want to be there, and I think everybody should show up and we can all just yell shit at you while you're going on the course.
Throw shade.
Yeah, I said no personal. You don't throw anything physical at Paul, but you can throw shade, and no family insults. Everything's got to be pretty much just about your inability to pick bike racers for the Tour de France.
Oh, they can use anything.
Oh,
They can
okay.
pick on my family because I know my family.
Oh. Your family. I would not pick
There's
on your wife because
that-
she would find them and do some sort of a tracheotomy that
I was
you would
thinking
never wake up from.
My family has some brothers and sisters, and
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was talking more immediate.
no, you don't want to touch the German side.
No.
You know how that turned out.
Yeah. And as I stated earlier, I know, Paul, you've got some obligations over the next couple weeks, and people don't have to do every stage. You can just do one. You can do all. You can do two. And stuff like that. And you can do them with us, or you can do them all on your own. Things like that. Pick your course. Have a lot of fun. Send us your Strava segments via email, and the one and only Bookie T is going to help me out. He's going to help
Nice.
everything get organized so we can keep track of who's done what. I'm out of beer, but a person that we usually mention his name and we have to drink after it.
Spit here.
A little spit. Roger has said he's going to do it again. Last year he did all the stages in one day. God knows him. He'll do it, but we're not going down Mount Spokane this year.
No,
We're not
we should
allowed
be
to.
safe.
No,
No sharp corners.
I'm never riding
Yep.
anywhere near Mount Spokane with that guy again. Because the first time I did, he got hit by a car. And the
God.
most recent time I did, he tore himself open. Yeah, so exactly like that. Big thing is, once again, about that social element. Get out there, ride your bike, meet some people. If you see somebody struggling, don't be Pat. Call him a nice name and help him out. Help him be a better person.
Don't be me.
Don't be me. Do whatever you do. Don't be me. I think that's a lesson for life, right? Next show we have Jackson Bolger's going to be a Spokane resident, everybody.
Yay.
About damn time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was the most swearing he's done on
Yeah,
this show.
I know.
Man.
Seriously, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, dude, am I forgetting anything? I always think there's something I need to say at the end. Like and subscribe is one. Tell your friends. We're live on Podbean every Monday for now. We might be switching to Tuesdays again, so hopefully you guys are okay with that because farmers
Yeah.
markets and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Tuesdays are the way to go. So yeah.